Hello folks, I'm Ellie Little and this is your daily TA wrap. We take a look at these markets and we do it from a neoclassical perspective, each time asking ourselves what happened today and what clues might it give us about tomorrow. I do this show 4 times a week, Monday through Thursday, live at 9 o'clock Eastern Time here from the base of the Rocky Mountains. Glad you could join me here. We had a update today. It was a nice update for the most part in the Nasdaq and the NDX. The rest of the market suffered. A lot of that was due to Apple. Icon been pressing Apple to do more buybacks to lift the stock. Last week, if you remember, Apple came out and said that they announced that they'd bought something like, I think it was 40 billion buyback over a period of time. Just the whole announcement thing was kind of weird. Making a big point out of it. Icon today more or less said, "Oh, Apple's doing what it's supposed to be doing." He dropped his bid to force them to do it, and the stock pops about 1.5%, 2%. But if you look at Apple, Apple's just coming back up to where it was. Here was the earnings report. Boom, right down, big volume, right? You turn around, you come back up. Now you gap, and you go right back into the bar, from that low. So if I were drawing this out and saying, hey, there's ranges up here, you got a range up here, and now you got a range down here. You pop right up into the top of it, you hit that bar, you turn around, you don't have as much volume as you had over there, slightly less. This thing's going to come right back down and test this little gap that it left now. And if it gets back into this bar, it's going right back to the bottom of it again. I suspect that is what we'll see before it's over with. So, Apple's just going to bounce around, and because it's such a huge weighting, it has a huge impact on what happens to these markets. So ending numbers, Dow was up a whole 7 points, 15,801 3/4. S&P's almost 3 higher, 1790,984, almost 1,800. Composite tacked on 0.5%, 22 points, 22 1/3 actually, 41.48. NDX 0.57% higher, 20 1/4, 35.82 was the close. The Russell really couldn't get much going, up 2 points, 11,018 3/4. We had gold up pretty big today. It's up again after hours right now, up about $8. Was up about, I think it was about 13, 14 today. During the day, we had silver up. The dollar was slightly down. Bonds were slightly down. Actually, bonds were slightly up. They were down to start with. Oil ticked up a little bit more, and copper was pretty much flat, up slightly. So tomorrow we got the big bird on the hill, Janet Yellen. You know, she's taking over for Bernanke. Bernanke's gone. He created all this mess for somebody to clean up. She's the one who's going to have to clean it up. People keep thinking that she's going to say something different because of the employment numbers with respect to tapering. I think tapering is going to continue, and that is because it's not having any effect. And so you got a lot of money out there sloshing around that's having no effect, and all it's affecting is adversely affecting other things like the stock market. And so I don't think you're going to see her say anything different. I don't know if this market is assuming she's going to say something different, but they certainly aren't willing to sell it off. The S&P's on lighter volume moves up, makes another high, gets over this little bar. You know, the only thing really in front of it and this resistance now is just some green area. There's really nothing here. So if I'm looking at just the S&P and judging this market, this S&P looks to me like it can carry on over the high from yesterday. Yeah, it's stretched 4 bars straight up, nothing there. Kind of a little hanging man at the top here, but you know, until something different happens, that index isn't telling us anything different is going to happen. If I go over and look at the Dow, though, it's a different story, because the Dow's been the weakest of all the indexes. The Dow gets over the high slightly. 15,798.51 was the high Friday. You get slightly over it. You close at 15,801. No, I read that wrong. So it actually did stay over it. So the Dow just pushed into resistance into the bottom of that quad witching bar, or actually the Fed bar. So that was 1508 was the low. 15,808 got to 15,801, so it's pushing up into this bar. So the Dow really not giving us a reversal either. It has a little doji at the top, less volume as well, pushing into resistance. So index wise, neither one of those are telling us anything different is going to happen, because they actually got over the prior high, although the Dow is going into resistance where the S&P's just got over it. Russell does the same thing, squeezes out a little bit higher high. It's coming back into the bottom of these bars where that congestion zone is, and so Russell's coming up into an area that it should see some potential selling. If I look at the NDX, which has been the strongest, the NDX actually pressing towards that top of that breakdown bar from the 24th. The high there is 3601, closes today at 3582. IXIC, the Nasdaq composite, pushing higher as well, gets over a swing point high. It's going to transition trend back tomorrow to bullish. 4 bars up, volume not there on any of these, but on the indexes themselves, there is no sign that they're going to stop. That's not quite true on the sectors, though. If we go look at the sectors, there's a slight difference. I'm going to point out the two that have 2-bar reversals to start with. So the XLI, the industrials, 2-bar reversal, gets over the high, closes underneath it, less volume, right? That's a reversal. That's after an extended move. This is an extended move, fast move, 4 bars straight up. Well, 3 bars straight up, and now the reversal. So just slightly over the high, closes underneath it, volumes left, less, not left, but less. That's a 2-bar reversal. You got another one that did the same thing, and that is the other one that had been actually the weakest, which is the consumer discretionary. Top of 64.17. You get over it by a penny, you close underneath it, you got no volume, into resistance, into these swing point lows, right? This thing is coming up to retest some of these that it couldn't get to prior, the lows that it broke. This is failing. This one wants to come back the other way. So look for the XLI, the XLY, so the discretionary and the industrials. Look for them to try to push back the other way tomorrow. So that's the worst two. But then we go look at others that are struggling as well. Transports. This really wasn't a 2-bar reversal. Volume actually expanded and it didn't make it to the high. That's just pushing back, right? Pushing back into these lows. You know, one could read it either way. You push back into the lows because this low here is 128.04. You got to it, I believe, 128. You didn't have as much volume as you pushed back down. But then again, you couldn't make it back to yesterday's highs, and you pushed down with volume. So this is kind of a toss-up. Any way you look at it, it's weak because it came off strong, couldn't make it even back up to the top of this bar, made it into this bar. The bottom of this bar was 129.98. You got into it on Friday. You didn't have as much volume. That was a failure there at resistance, and then it pulls back today. So that one can continue to pull back. And what was the other one? There was one other one that looked a little weak. Well, this one has looked weak, but it still continues to look weak. Didn't fail today, but the XLP coming up on nothing. So it's coming into resistance, has nothing. This one is running out of air. The ones that are still going, even though they're pressing higher on basically helium at this point, SMHs and the SOX looks the same. The XLB actually hit into resistance today, but it had nice volume expansion. So that one looks like it can try again tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised to see it fell tomorrow, though. The XLF, this is the other one I was looking for. This one actually has a doji at the highs, but it barely got over them and stayed over them. It was right at the same price point. 21.31 was the high yesterday. The close was 21.29. Today is 21.31 was the close. Just got over it, just stayed over it. That can try to push a little bit more, just like the indexes, but again, another hanging man up there. And let's see here. Oh, the strongest, of course, you wouldn't be surprised, is actually, there's two of them. The XLK, which wouldn't surprise you. This one is getting into what I thought would be a tough spot to get over, and that is this intersection of these two bars. It is pushed over this bar today. Doesn't have the volume, and let's actually get the numbers on it. So that price point's 35.20, does 8 million. You press over it with 6.7, you close back under it. That's a failure. And the other one that actually still looks amazingly strong actually is the XLV. Maybe this is just a safety trade. This transitions back to sideways. It gets over the breakdown bar. This is the first one to do that. 56.77 was the breakdown bar from the 24th. You close over it at 56.82. So that one actually can go try to get the top. It's coming up there. It doesn't have as much volume, but it got over it. It got over a swing point high, got over that breakdown bar. So XLV, if I had to, put my money somewhere, I'd probably be looking at this one to put my money in because that one is the one that's doing it. XLK failed today. The IYT looks also failed on Friday and pulled back, and you got two bar reversals today. So 4 of the 10 wanting to come lower still. That's probably going to be enough to start pulling those indexes back and keep them from going much higher. And they're extended. And so you look to the, stocks drive sectors, sectors drive indexes typically. When I see sectors starting to weaken like this, that gives me enough clue to know that more than likely this market is not going to be able to push very much more here. So it's pretty much the end of the rope, at least on this leg higher. I looked at the TLT to see if there was any clues there. Let's look at it together again. This one actually tried to break down again and couldn't. So the TLT is actually, trying to push down, can't push down. It's got no volume. It's coming down. This thing wants to flip around and at least come back into the bottom of this bar. That also should put pressure on the markets. And dollar really not doing anything, just working lower. That's helping gold. Gold pushed over the swing point highs today. 122.51, you did it at 122.92. You're only pushing 7.3 as you go over 12 million. You're coming into 6, you're coming into 7.6, you're doing 7.3. That's a tough one. It got over the highs though, so it's broken another high. It's in the thick of resistance here. That will redraw tomorrow. There'll be one here on the intersection of these two probably. But gold trying to push higher. It's really struggling here, but you know it's a nice uptrend it's got going, and now it's over the swing point high, so it can actually push a little bit higher. This is, let's see here. It's kind of a strange ABCD structure, and it doesn't measure hardly any farther. No, it's not an ABCD structure. It's too messed up at this point. So if I start over here, I don't have one. So there's really nothing. It's just pressing over the highs. Silver doesn't look nearly as good though. If I look at the silver market, you know, so gold got kind of a doji as it got over the top. If I look at the silver market, you know, it's not back to the swing point highs, and it keeps getting sold every time it pushes up. Look at all these black bars on the way up. Silver market's struggling, and that continues to make me think that gold is probably on its last leg higher for now before it gets some larger pullback. Maybe a little bit more push after hours it's up. We'll see if it holds by the morning. If we look overseas still looks weaker than these domestic markets. And so if I look at, if I go to Europe, for example, and I look at the CAC, you know, the CAC is pushing up. It's got a black bar at the top, tested into this bar. That high is 42.45.96. You do 42.37 is where you close. Did we get over it? 42.45. Yeah, we did. We got over it, back under it, less volume. That's a failure at this high into resistance. The FTSE. Right, and I suspect what you're going to find is you're going to find our market struggling in the morning, because I suspect Europe is going to trade lower tonight. 65.96. So here it's not really an extended move. You know, extended is kind of a wish-washy term. That's not exactly extended, but you do go over, back under. That's a reversal. If you want to call it a two-bar, that might be a stretch, but it is pressing up less volume today as compared to yesterday. Over the high, back under. That's a reversal. That probably trades sideways. That's question mark as to whether it's extended, but it has pushed up a decent amount. If I look at the DAX, so that's two of the three. Here's the DAX, and the DAX has been acting weaker than even the CAC, and the CAC is the one to me that looks the worst. Here again, just like on the FTSE, you go over, you're back under, you have less volume, and that's somewhat of an extended move as well on a bounce. All these European markets to me look like they're going to flip around and try to trade lower tomorrow. I suspect that's going to put some pressure on us as a result. We could look at Asia, but Asia is about the same picture. I didn't see much different there. We can push over and look at, I want to look at some of these gold stocks if you guys want to. I don't see any questions there. Let me pop and make sure I don't have any questions anywhere. And if not, I want to push in and look at some of these stocks. So there's been a lot of earnings coming out. Yeah, no text either. So there's been a lot of earnings coming out, and those earnings have shown, you know, some good stocks, right? Some really good stocks. And if these markets, you know, I'm going to push back real quick here to, I want to pop over to my sector trends and pull up the gold stocks. If we look at the markets, you know, the markets themselves are holding up pretty well near the highs. You know, so if I look at the S&P again, you know, the S&P is still pressing, you know, in the middle of the range here in a big range trade. So the question is going to be, you know, does this thing break out of this range, and in which way does it do it? And at one point it will. It'll either break out of the top or it'll break out of the bottom. And as we get closer, you know, towards whatever that's going to be, whichever way it's going to be, we're going to get some clues and we'll have a better idea of what it's going to be. Right now, it's, you know, you're just in the middle of the range. You get a big push down, you get a big bounce up. What is moving though, there's always something moving in the market. And what is moving in the market, of course, is the gold and the gold stocks themselves. So gold has had a nice push up. It's kind of a counter trend trade off that push down over the last probably about 16, 18 months. So, and we could pull this back. I could put it on a monthly, for example, and you can see the kind of damage, GLD, you can see the kind of damage that was done to the gold sector, right? First you went sideways, then you broke down, and this was from about, so that high was October of 2012, and now we're in 2014. So for about 14, 15 months, this has basically traded down. Now it's trying to put in a bottom, and basically has, and it's getting a bounce off of that. The trends here are down. You can see they're down. But yet, even with that scenario, you're still getting some stocks moving to the upside in that sector off this small bounce because they got demolished. And so the GDX, for example, broke out today over a swing point high, and now it's testing this high. 2470 there, and did it get over it? It closed right at it. 46 million shares coming into 37.5. So you can see you're pushing the highs in the stocks, and you're pushing it with some pretty good volume. So let's take a look at some of the stocks in that sector and see what they look like. And so what I'm going to do is I've got on a different screen here, I'm going to pull up any stocks in the sector that are bullish on the intermediate term time frame, if there are any. So let's see what we got. Yeah, we do have a few. So I'm going to pull up some of these and just take a look at them. And when I'm studying, for potential trades, this is basically what I do. I find sectors I like, I go look for stocks in them. So the first one I pull up, and this is like a dollar stock, but here it goes breaking out over a high, volume expanding. If I pull over the weekly chart, you can see it's turned bullish on the intermediate term time frame, and now it's breaking out. Looks to me like it's targeting that high. So here you have a nice, my friend Charles Kirk, this is his favorite pattern. You got one of these things he calls a cup and a handle. You basically have the cup here, your little handle there, and now you got your breakout. So if you're doing the classical stuff, there's nothing that says that those patterns won't work. Oops, grabbed the wrong thing there. But from the perspective of me, you're pushing highs, you're pushing it with volume. That's telling me the demand is greater than the supply, and that's a good looking stock. So if I pop through, I just want to pop through a few of these just to show you the kind of research you can do, to find these kinds of things. Here's another one. This is another small cap one. Again, presses over a high today, presses with volume. And if I look at it on the weekly, you can see a nice uptrend in place here as well, and it's breaking out over a swing point high on the weekly. So nice action in that one as well. And it looks like I'm picking up a bunch of small ones here. LODE again, nice volume pushes here. This is not very heavily traded. Let's keep going and see what else there is. See if we got some larger ones. KGGI, this is King Gold. Looks like they changed their symbol. And I'm not familiar with that one. That's not the one I thought it was. Here's Midway Gold. This is one I've traded before. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah, here we go again. Here's another one pressing the highs. And volume there's 896. And you're going, well, you didn't quite have the volume. So that one may actually fell tomorrow. But if you look at it on the weekly, it's broken out multiple swing point highs. Those kinds of moves are sustainable, and you can get some nice trades off of them. Boy, there's a bunch of them here. Let me see if there's any larger cap stocks. Here's one, Nova Gold. Let's see what Nova looks like. So this is not a penny stock. This one's trading at about 3, and they're just consolidating. But you can see on a weekly they've had a nice run here. So anyway, I think that what is important to do is to find sectors that are showing you strength, right? And then you move in to see what those stocks inside there are. Here's Silvercrest Mines. That one's breaking out over multiple swing points on multiple time frames, which is always a nice setup. And I'm scanning down farther. Here's another one, Franco-Nevada Gold. These guys actually they take in finance gold mining operations and get paid back in gold, kind of like RGLD is another one that does that. Here's another one, Richmont Mines. Nice, just strong uptrend. And now that one on the weekly is not as nice. So anyway, a lot of good ones there. I see someone asking about XLV. If we look at XLV, you may have came in a little bit late here, Mr. Hartman. I actually looked at it. It got over a swing point high today, had less volume. It's attacking. This is the first one to attack the high of the breakdown bar. It gets over at 55.76, closes at 56.82, gets over the high at 56.77, has less volume. I suspect you're probably going to get a little retrace, but this one actually showing some decent consolidation strength. More so than any of the other ones right now. The technology sector, XLK, is the only one that's close to this in terms of strength. Remember, these guys broke down with some heavy volume, though, so I'm not convinced that these are going to continue. I suspect you'll get a little pullback first, but the sector's acting well, and going along with that, what I was just talking about, and if I pull, I'm not going to pull over these sector trends here, but I'm using what I'm basically doing, and I can do it here. What I'm basically doing is I'm coming into my tool set, going into the sector trends, and in the case of gold, I just put in a symbol like AEM, and I pull it up, and that gets me to the stocks, and then I can sort them on the intermediate term time frames and find the ones that are strongest. For example, I just pulled down here a while ago when we were looking at the bullish ones. We can do the same thing with the XLV. Actually, we can just put the XLV in here and find, whoops, if we put the right symbol, XLV, and then we can find everything that's in that whole sector. I would probably go to intermediate term time frame and look for the bullish ones. So AZN is one of them. So let me pop back over and do it on another screen because I don't have this one. This is not the one I'm doing the charts on. So let me pull up the XLV, sort it over here, and then pop up into, what was it, Alamera Sciences. And you can see what that chart looks like. And a lot of these are looking pretty strong. So let's pop in here. Yeah, so I'm not sure. This looks like a biotech. It pressed up high. It's at highs. It's over all the weekly highs. If I want to look for something a little less maybe wild, how about AZN, AstraZeneca? I believe they're a drug manufacturer. So if I look at those guys, we can see what they look like. But anyway, this is a good way to go find stocks in the group that are strong. They had a nice push down though, so I probably wouldn't be that interested. But there's decent looking stocks, in this group that are behaving. How about Lilly? Eli Lilly. Nice big push up. This looks like a big range trade. Now it's pushing back up. I wouldn't be surprised to see it get back to the top. XLV is not a bad sector. It's probably one of the stronger ones right now, along with technology. Okay, so tomorrow, futures, they look like they were up before I came on the air. I'm not sure what they're doing now. Asia, Japan was trading higher to start the night. I suspect Europe's going to be a problem, though. I wouldn't be surprised to see us open up a little bit down and more struggle tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised to see us struggle most of this week, to be quite honest. Janet Yellen on the Hill tomorrow, I can't believe she's going to tell us that tapering's going to stop. I'm sure she'll dance around the questions just like all of the chairmans do. I guess we'll see how good her footstep is tomorrow. But she's on the hill tomorrow. She's on the hill again Thursday. We got some other speakers tomorrow. We got a bunch of economic numbers towards the end of the week. So really, and most of the earnings are out of the way. You know, there's a few stragglers still coming in, but most of the big ones are gone. Russell keeps showing us weakness. That's a problem. The Dow has been extremely weak. Doji's at these little highs after a straight up 4-day push. Expect a pullback, folks. Have a great night. Thanks for joining me. Tell a friend, tell two. I'm LA. This is and was your daily TA wrap. Have yourself a great night. Take care of yourself, and until next time, have a good one. Good night, folks.